Hey guys, my name is Madi and you are welcome to Madi Speaks. So as an African who was born and raised in Africa with very strong conservative values, believe me, when I say strong, I mean strong, okay? Now I try not to dabble in some cultural and political issues like issues about the rainbow family and things like that. This is because I know that as someone from a very strong traditional background, I might be very extreme in my opinions on these issues, and because of that, I might say things that will offend the majority of the Western population. But this is one of those situations where I have to risk offending everyone and voicing things like they are without mincing words. This incident happened on March 30th. Okay, I came across it on X, and honestly, it is very heartbreaking, especially for every woman out there who is being cheated out of her rights by biological men pretending to be women. And also, this is a clear illustration of the dystopian world we live in today. A female fencer by the name of Stephanie Turner was given a black card and disqualified from a regional fencing competition held at the University of Maryland by the USFA. Reason for her disqualification, you may ask? Well, because she refused to compete against a biological man. Now, the transgender man you see in that video, I think that's incorrect. So these things are very kind of confusing for me. Okay, if you transition from a woman to a man, that means you are a transgender man. Then if you're a man and you are transitioning from a man to a woman, you are a transgender woman. Okay, the transgender woman you see in that video is an individual by the name of Redmond Sullivan. Of course, a very masculine name, but I'm sure the name is gonna change very soon into something more feminine. After all, in past fencing seasons, Redmond competed against fellow men. And did I mention that he never once came first? But yeah, this fencing season, okay, he is now a woman and he is competing against biological females in this regional tournament. I think it is important to mention that this individual fenced for a season against men at Wagner College and several years prior in club competitions. Now, according to his fencing tracker profile, he has never finished first against men in any of these competitions, but currently he is still in the middle of his first season against women, but he has already finished first in the Connecticut Junior Olympic qualifier in the foil. Sullivan also competed against female athletes in track and field, where he won the State Championship title in the shot put and placed second at the Open State Championship. I wonder what went wrong with the West, okay? Anyway, let's hear from the female fencer who refused to indulge this biological man in that fencing event.
We're interested in a female fencer stands up for fairness in women's sports. She did it by taking a knee and refusing to compete against a biological male at a tournament over the weekend. The referee's response, a black card, the sport's most severe penalty, which means expulsion from the tournament. Let's bring in the athlete at the center of it all, Stephanie Turner. And Stephanie, thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
It was an important event, though. And this is something that you've been preparing for an awfully long time. You decided that you were going to take yourself out of the tournament. What was the thinking in leading up to the decision where you took a knee?
Right. So this was actually a regional tournament held by the USFA at the University of Maryland. So part of my pre-competition ritual is to check the online registration to see who is going to be there and just double check my check-in times. And on the registration list, I saw Redmond Sullivan's name listed there. And I recognized this individual from a previous Redux article that had been written stating that this person was a man who had previously competed on the men's team at Wagner and was now competing as a woman within the USFA. So from that point, I just got really disappointed with the USFA and with this tournament, and I just felt like at a loss. I'd already committed so much money to it and training hours, and I was literally looking forward to this. I do this tournament every year.
Yeah.
I think this may be like my 10th year in a row doing this tournament. And I just got really sad and I started crying because this was like the last thing I wanted to deal with in my competition.
So at one point in the video, so we see you take a knee, and then the official comes over. What did you say to the official at that point?
So the official came over to me and asked if I was still refusing to fence, and I said yes. Oh, and are you talking about initially,
yes,
or when I got the black card?
No, initially.
Initially, I told them that I was refusing to fence because this person is a man and I am a woman, and this is a women's tournament, and I refuse to fence on principle.
And then later, right after this, we see your opponent comes over. What did you say to your opponent at that point?
My opponent was a little bit confused, thinking that I was maybe hurt, and I said, no, I am refusing to fence you because I'm a woman and you are a man. I have much love and respect for you, but I will not compete against you.
Wow.
And he responded, okay, well, there's a, yes?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm sorry, what was his response?
His response was, okay, but there's a member of the board of directors here, and he supports me, and there's a policy that says that I'm a woman and I'm allowed to compete in the women's tournament, and if you do this, you're going to get black carded. And I said, I know.
So here's what USA Fencing said in a statement to Fox News Digital. USA Fencing enacted our current transgender and non-binary athlete policy in 2023. The policy was designed to expand access to the sport of fencing and create inclusive, safe spaces. It goes on to talk more. But this idea about inclusive, safe spaces, what about inclusive, safe spaces for female athletes?
Right. There's nothing for me and there's everything for him, because I have no choice as a woman, as a female, in where I compete. I am a woman and I have an athletic disadvantage to men, so I compete in the women's division, which is where I rightfully am. But he has been given this opportunity to fence in the women's division, and he can compete. He can easily compete in the men's division. He can also compete at mixed events in local tournaments if he wants. There is a place for him. So the idea that they're creating, they're expanding the women's is just essentially making it an open tournament that can include men, and it ends up hurting me and other girls.
So you've got the support of Riley Gaines, who was on our network earlier today, and former tennis star Martina Navratilova, who put this out on X. She said, this is what happens when female athletes protest. Anyone here still think this is fair? I am fuming, and shame on USA Fencing. Shame on you for doing this. How dare you throw women under the gender BS bus? I mean, this doesn't come at the expense of male athletes. We don't see this on the flip side of the coin. point. This all comes at the expense of female athletes like yourself, like Riley Gaines, like the girls who lost that race by 7 seconds in Oregon, like the girls who lost the pole vault event in Maine. I mean, this is happening across the country,
right.
and to a large degree, women support this.
Right, it's happening in every sport and at every level, and there's really no option to go around this when there are extremists who take up positions within the authoritative body of the USFA. So I have very little option other than being forced to fence. And I have gone down other pathways, like back in 2023 Summer Nationals, I just didn't sign up to fence in the Div 1A women's foil because there was another transgender person that I'd recognized in that tournament. So, I mean, I've avoided it as much as I can, but at what point do I have to just avoid all tournaments altogether because there's going to be somebody who's trans there?
Now, before I say anything else, okay, I must first of all acknowledge and appreciate this woman for her bravery and courageous display, okay? She sent a very clear message with what she did. Her actions were a very powerful protest against the erasure of women in women-only spaces. I can't imagine how any reasonable human being will ever come to believe that it would be appropriate for biological men who say that they are women to compete with biological women in women's sports. It just doesn't make sense to me. Men and women can never, ever be of equal match as far as physical strength is concerned. Let me use myself as an example, okay? Back in high school, I used to be a discus athlete, okay? I used to be a star in the female discus division. I often found myself getting first or second position each time we go for competitions. Now, my younger brother, who is also in the same high school with me, also plays discus, but he does that in the men's division. He is really good at it. But the interesting thing about it all is that despite him being good at discus, he never comes near the top 5 in the men's division, that is in high school. But this same brother of mine, who is essentially nobody in the men's discus division, will best me any day each time I go against him. Now, were he to be born in America, then he wakes up one day and decides that he is a woman, God forbid. What do you think would be the fate of the women he would be competing against? Okay, assuming I decided to take up my discus career and I become an athlete. What do you think would happen to me competing against somebody like him? Do you think it would be a fair draw? I don't think so. Men will always have their advantages, okay, irrespective of how they view themselves in their imaginations, in their head, irrespective of which gender identity they chose to identify with. They will always retain the advantages they were biologically born with. Now, the same goes for women, but I think women know this already, and that is why we don't see many biological women who claim to be men standing in line to compete in men's sports. We don't see transgender men standing in line to fight biological men in boxing or wrestling or any other sporting activity you can think of. This is because they would be reminded very quickly how their genetic makeup is totally different from whatever they feel in their imaginations or in their head. So many women, just like Stephanie Turner, have had to work hard and toil and strive to achieve their spot in women's sports, only to be disgraced and knocked out by biological men who are at best mediocre when they compete against their own kind. How many women have Leah Thomas deprived of achieving their dreams in women's sports? Mind you, so-called Leah Thomas spent 3 years on the men's swim team at UPenn without winning a single conference title or placing first in an invitational meet. He set one pool record in the 1,000 free, an event that most swimmers don't put time into as it isn't an official NCAA event. Now, switching to the women's team, he set 26 records in a single season, including school records in almost every event he swam and 3 conference records. Was an All-American in 3 events. He was also nominated for the NCAA Woman of the Year award. How many women have Natalie Fahey cheated out of their rights? How many women have Jace, Megan Cortez Fields deprived of their rightful spot in women's sports only? How about Sebastian Leah Smith? Okay, Craig Sissy Telfa, Camden Sadie Schreiner, Jonathan June Eastwood, Evan Chloe Anderson, Orion Raven Casas, Braden Blair Fleming, Robert Gabriel Ludwig, Mateo Riley Rueda. How many women have been denied their accolades in sports because of these biological males who are claiming to be women? How many? And by the way, the list of these trans individuals overtaking women in sports goes on, okay? And again, every single one of these guys, including the hundreds of others I did not mention, every single one of them had mediocre results when competing against other men. It wasn't until they switched to the women's team that they achieved something worth mentioning. At this point, I don't even understand what's going on in this part of the world. And honestly, I don't even care to understand it. But I think that what is being done is a great injustice to women. It is wrong and it needs to stop. I think the West now has enough trans population. There are too many transgender individuals, whatever that means, running around. So I think it is high time they get their own sports and bathrooms for the sake of this female erasure that is quickly unfolding before us. We need a trans-only sports where every trans person can compete with other trans people. Case closed. Look at the men. No one is bothering them in their private spaces, okay? Why can't women have the same? Shame on the USA fencing for totally throwing women under the bus in their own game while favoring non-biological females. Again, I appreciate the quiet but powerful protest that this fencer initiated, and I hope for a day when women can finally experience true freedom in women-only spaces. But as always, guys, these are my thoughts, these are my opinions, but feel free to share yours in the comment section below, but do so respectfully. Also, if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, honestly, I don't know what you're waiting for. Subscribe to the channel. Like and share this video to keep people informed, and consider joining my membership or buying me a coffee if you like, as a way of supporting the channel. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope to catch you on the next one. For now, peace.